Hi there Stitchy friends, I'm Kat from Catkin and Lily, bringing you all the best tips, tricks and tutorials so you can get the most joy from your cross stitching. Now today I'm here with a quick tip to help you keep the back of your cross stitch work neat. Now I want to get one thing clear right from the get-go. A neat back is absolutely not the number one goal of cross stitch. The number one goal is to have fun. But if you enjoy the back being neat as well, then there are ways to do that. And so today I want to share just my number one tip because it's so super simple. And that tip is to keep your thread ends short whenever you are starting or finishing a thread. So hopefully you can see mine on the back here. Now this will obviously keep your back neat because there aren't any loose ends floating around and that could get caught and tangled up in your work on the back. But it will also help keep the front neater. And that's for two reasons. First, because if you have long tails of thread on the back, then they can actually get caught and pulled through to the front of your work as you stitch. And you have little fluffy bits poking out at the front, which isn't going to look super nice. And secondly, because if you leave long ends so that they poke out from the edges of your stitching, so out here for example, then those long ends could be visible from the front as well, especially if you're using dark colours on light fabric like this white Ada. Now, I used to leave my tails much longer, and I know this because I actually found a really early piece of my stitching, and it is a hot fluffy mess. I'd love to show it to you, but I didn't take a photo, and it's recently been framed, so I can't see it. And that's actually the key here. No one can see the back when it's finished and framed, not even you. And the front of my piece looks lovely. So I really only like a neat back because it makes me feel good. So I'll show you what I do when I finish a thread, and you can see if it would work for you. So when you're finished stitching with a piece of thread, you're going to run it under a few stitches. And I find 3 is absolutely enough to keep it secure. You can run under more if you like, and I definitely get that when you first start out, you're paranoid that if you don't run under enough stitches, the thread will somehow pull loose, and it really won't. 3 is absolutely fine. But you do whatever feels right to you, really. And if you only run under 3, you can often easily find new stitches to run under. And it's quite helpful to run under different stitches each time because it will keep the back of your work flatter. But if you're only able to reuse the same stitches to run underneath, then it really doesn't make that much difference. So I've run my thread under 3 stitches. I'll give it a little gentle tug to make sure that it's not loose on the front. And then I'm going to snip it really short. So I'm talking 1 or 2 millimeters short here. Now, if the thought of getting that close to your work while snipping the thread freaks you out, here's how to do it while keeping your stitching safe. First up, you're going to want really sharp embroidery scissors. So here are some of my favourites, and you can see they've all got nice, narrow, sharp, pointed ends. So I'll use my favourite pink ones. And the idea is to place your scissors so that they're parallel to your fabric. Even if you have to turn your work around to make sure that you can get the orientation that you like, keep them parallel, because if you point your scissors down at your stitching while you're snipping the thread, you're more likely to snip your stitches or even the fabric that's there. So I'm going to keep that thread pulled taut, place my scissors parallel, close to the end of the thread, and just snip that off like so. So now I've got a lovely short end. In fact, that might be just fractionally longer than I normally do because trying to do it on the video is a little bit trickier. Now the same approach goes for starting a thread by running it under just a few stitches, although I'll admit that this can be a little bit trickier because if you only run under 3 stitches to start your thread, it can more easily pull out as you start to stitch. So you could run under a few more stitches when you're starting, or you can leave the tail a little bit longer and then go back and snip it short once you've done a few stitches so that you know it won't pull out. Now, of course, if you use the loop start, then you won't have to worry about that. And if you don't know about the loop start, both from the back and from the front of your stitching, then you absolutely must go and check out my video on how to do that, which I'll link in the description. I don't often say must, but it really is a game changer. So that's my number one tip for a neat cross stitch back. And if you'd like me to dive into any more tips around this topic or any other topics that you'd like me to talk about, then do let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, then give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and of course subscribe to stay in the loop for more stitchy tips. Thank you so much for watching, and happy stitching!